Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in this world. This is Hedgen Lee with a morning update for Bitcoin. I know I have not posted a video analysis for a while, and I'm back from traveling. So here we are looking at Bitcoin with a lot of labels, from a higher degree of trend label, sub labels, and even much smaller degree labels, waves, and patterns. Now, since the correction out of around 5,900 to approximately 11,789, I have made it count so that now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It isn't the most ideal looking 5. I mean, compared to 3 and 5, 1 is pretty long. It's not longer than 3, so that the 3 doesn't become the shortest, which would violate one of the rules of any waves. That being that wave 3 cannot be the shortest. However, the one that I drew here is a bit long. And I was thinking maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be the 3, 4, and we could get 5. It's still in the books for that to happen, as long as I had said 2 days ago, I believe midday update doesn't go below 9,087 or so. Because 4, if this is 1, 2, 3, and we're working on 4, then 4 cannot overlap with 1, but it's so darn close. And Bitcoin doesn't have the real habit or the tendency to have their wave 4 so close in proximity to the peak of wave 1. But what led me to do this label and down is the head and shoulders pattern, which from a minimum travel perspective, the blue line shows 76.70 approximately. So this count does not call for a new lower low. What it's saying is that this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are subwaves of wave 1. And then we go get a approximate ABC. Now this, if the ABC goes this far below the minimum, 73.20, that's a pretty deep retracement, and I believe I had shown the Fibonacci to be maybe that, to have that area to be the 0.78 retrace. Yep. So I had wave 2 come to 0.78 retrace. Now this wave 2 can go stop at 0.382. Doesn't look like it, but it's a zigzag 5, 3, and C is not done. It can go to 0.5 and turn from there. It can go to 0.618 and turn from there. So those are all primary likely alternate candidates as well. But we all know that Bitcoin does have a tendency of putting in a deeper retracement than 0.5 and often going to 0.618. Also, the 7670 went beyond the 0.618. This is the minimum travel for the head and shoulders. So I decided to put wave 2 into the 0.78 zone. And from here, heck, you can even do a stab. So again, in this analysis, I'm not calling for a newer low. I'm now counting it as wave 1. We're in the progression of wave 2 right now. And I would say we're a little bit more than maybe half done. Now this wave 2 might have to come down a bit lower, which is fine. So it's probably doing ABC. And that ABC could go to 50% of the retrace of 1, which is approximately where I just put it right now at 10,000. And then from there go down to 3, 4, and 5. So should one be panicking? Should one be panic selling and think, oh my God, the era of Bitcoin is done and finito? Should one be thinking it's time to recover all my money and get out as much as possible before it really goes to zero? I don't agree with that kind of thinking. I think that this kind of short term only really gives you the elaborations for a shorter term degree trades and is not necessarily congruent to longer term investments. I still think that if you look at this from a pattern perspective, a wedge is forming. And it's looking pretty good. And this wedge is A, B, C, maybe one more up, D, and E. So if we label this a little more, and I had shown this earlier yesterday, I know. So here's A, I want to give a little more elaboration. B, now if it goes to E down here, it will overlap with this peak right here. So this would not be 1, 2, 3, 4 scenario, because 4 cannot overlap with 1. So here is the apex. So this would likely still be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's label that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would still be an ABCDE towards wave 2, or an ABCDE triangle for high level wave 2. And that would be wave 1, and this here would be wave 2. Now, from a retrace potential perspective, if wave 2 is an ABCDE, and where this E is right now, what degree of retracement in Fibonacci can we see? And what I'll look at here is, it would be more in the zone of 0.5, 50% retrace. So let's say we can put wave E down closer here, closer to the apex. Now, in the scheme of the head and shoulders that we had seen, recall that the first one was a bit angled. So it was a left shoulder, right shoulder, head, but the neckline was a bit angled. And if this is to be a fractal, then we could maybe do the same as well. And if we angle this, it could still be said to be in play for the most part. And this could go something to that, kind of a pathway complete the left shoulder and then the right shoulder. And it would still be acceptable. Now, if this to be a fractal as well, look at this very long retrace spike downwards, ABC. So we have this long spike downwards ABC. I'm thinking, all right, we might need to include this part. And maybe we'll see a spike down here too. But it has not been invalidated. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It is still in a valid progression of development. And this progression of development is going to be perhaps resolved in the next few days, especially if this wedge-like pattern also gets resolved. Then if that jumps out, if this pattern jumps out of it, this whole thing is still very much in valid development. Absolutely. So nothing has been given up on. Now, I'm going to make a intention to better provide shorter term, which is what I'm calling the tree counts, and the longer term, months to years, preferably the years time frame. Because I think having both perspectives is really important so as to not get lost and confuse the trees for the forest. So here is the daily chart for Bitcoin, going all the way from the Genesis back in 2009. From then, all the wiggles and twists and turns and crashes and corrections, hopes and dreams and profits and losses, all added up to a very large wave one. And this would be maybe a cycle degree. And a lot of you might be wondering, what is a cycle degree? Well, you might want to write this down. So a grand supercycle will be multi-centuries. And if you've seen some people do very long forecasting, you might even see supercycle. And things like the Dow Jones could be utilized in this type of time frame. And you might see Robert Prechter still delving into this type of time frame to call for his ultimate bottom of a supercycle correction. And then the cycle level to several years. So maybe even several decades. And then you have the primary to maybe a couple of years, months to a couple of years, intermediate weeks to months, and so on down to even minutes. My long term will be usually in the term of the cycle degree. Several years, maybe even tens of years. Can you imagine Bitcoin on a cycle degree 30 years from today? And let's say 30 years from today, one Bitcoin is worth $1 billion. Therefore, what happens in between from today to 30 years, crashes, corrections, surges, 50x fold increases in just months, etc., whatever the phenomena might be that activity, price activity wise, that Bitcoin might be doing, it matters none. So, from the genesis of Bitcoin to where we hit at the top at around 20,000, that was a cycle degree wave one. All that activity led to cycle degree wave one. All the people debunking Bitcoin, saying it's a bubble, saying it's dead, every time there was a minor correction, they're saying it again, maybe, the media. So this is wave one at a cycle degree. And we are doing what happens after wave one. You get a wave two. Where the wave two is here. So if we put in the bottom for wave two, what comes next? The next will be the cycle degree wave three. And that is what I'm really excited about. And this baby is not going to go to 30, 70, what have you. I think it'll be, that is why I'm calling for 1 into the 6 figures, 250K. It's so high up there, I can't even draw long enough right now without really shrinking to almost nothingness. But let's say this goes, wave 3 goes to somewhere in the range of 77,000 to 250,000, a big range. Knowing that, now that knowing that forest perspective doesn't matter if you're in that kind of a time frame, whether wave 2 is here or maybe a little lower here. I don't think so. In fact, if you know after wave 1 and after wave 2 there's a wave 3 coming, what would you be doing? Likely, with this kind of perspective, you'll be doing a buying activity. I had put out a ladder, if you recall, that hit pretty much at 5,900 on the lowest rung of the ladder. I'd be laddering in. This is when having cash at hand, it becomes extremely valuable. And yeah, okay, if it goes low to 5,000, I'll be doing another laddering in. Goes to 3,800, what some people are calling for, good. I'll ladder in right here too. So I've got a ladder here, here, 5,900 to 6,800 or 7,200, 5,000, 3,800. All it means is that this line will move its starting point, but not necessarily change the destination. So if I bought it here, here, and here, and if price goes to here, these buy points are going to be at temporary paper losses. Does it bother me? Nope. Why? Once wave 3 starts, it'll zip up everything into profitability. But for now, I'm going to keep the wave 2 there. Like that. And this long-term perspective really should allow people to not get confused with the trees for the forests. And if we have Wall Street coming in, as I think they already have through the CMEs, but really coming from a volume perspective, I think this wave 3 onset, because wave 3 is usually the most extended. Wave 3 moves with most violence, either upwards or downwards, whichever the direction it might be. Once this happens, it'll be a sight to behold. In the speed that it climbs, and also in the degree of that climb. I'm talking from where we are 10,000, a little less, to six figures, 77K to six figures. The speed at which Bitcoin can climb will be jaw-dropping. So I'm very excited. There's not an iota of despair in me because of the forest view. All right, I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please do let me know. I know there's a lot of spammers. Bernie's at it again. He's got his whatever umpteen number of bots, which he tries to show that it's not him, but it's really him. I mean, Pagin, Baejin, is owned by him. All of the alternate accounts that he has. But I will say this, there's going to be a whale out there that probably is going to get pissed enough that's going to come after him. Just him and only him. Because usually people like a thug, an obtuse thug like him just doesn't get tolerated for too long. All right. I hope you have a good weekend. More to come.